Alright, I finally finished my leg armor. So, basically, for the bulk of this video, you're going to be looking at me from the hips down. So, here it is, made from heat-shaped PVC pipe. Now, traditionally it would be held on with straps going up to a belt, but personally I found that reduced my flexibility more than I was willing to sacrifice. So instead, I ended up stitching it to a pair of jeans, which gives me much better flexibility. I'm probably going to need a pair of suspenders to help keep my pants up, because these do add quite a bit of weight. The way I did these was, well, for if you want to build your own. So we've got this large piece for the crease, which is the thigh armour, then an articulated knee cop, and a pair of greaves, all as the one piece, as opposed to separate pieces. Now this is quite advanced and a lot more effort than would need to be done. The crease, or the thigh armour, only goes around the majority of the way, leaving the back of the thigh open. This is to make it a bit more comfortable for sitting down, especially if you were to say need to sit down to drive a vehicle. But you would definitely need to be very careful with this because they are a bit cumbersome. And to cover that in a flexible covering, what I've done is I've made a bunch of 1 inch by 2 inch PVC rectangles, dulled off the edges of course, and I've stitched them individually to the back of the jeans. Now this is not the same as lamellar armour, though it might still be called the same thing. Basically it's similar to splintered armour with short splints, and by putting them really close together I've eliminated virtually all of the gaps. There are occasionally some tiny little gaps here and there where I've messed up a bit, and of course you can have them overlapping a little bit. Just keep in mind if they sag down a bit too much they can dig into your back of your knee. I may add some extra straps in the future to help hold them in place. And of course, going down to chainmail, this chainmail is a bit too thick, using really thick wire and really small rings. It's not as tough as riveted chainmail, and I'm not too pleased with the gum boot sticking out. Originally I'd hoped that the chainmail would slide nicely into that, but it didn't quite work, so I might attach some splits along there, or I might cut out the gum boot. I'm not quite sure at the moment, but I'm probably going to make some alterations to that to make it a bit easier to deal with, especially because with this massive amount of bunched up chainmail, it does make bending your knee. It makes it uncomfortable. Now this is a pretty simple piece of armour, except for the amount of shaping that goes into it. If you've seen my fully articulated arm armour tutorial, that makes it very easy to understand. So what you need to do is start off with the tweeze, the thigh. Go around most of the way, make a measurement there. Don't want to be way up in the groin, because if it jabs into your pelvis when you're walking, that's going to be horribly uncomfortable, especially if it's just, even if it's just up there rubbing constantly, you don't want that. And there is a bit of noise when walking. I've gone bushwalking in it. As they rub together on the insides here, there is a bit of a noise, just like the sound of two bits of plastic or vinyl rubbing against each other. That noise there. Of course, there is a little bit of noise in the articulation. Of course, you could always do non-articulated leg armour if you wanted to do your own. You could very easily just do this as a crease, a simple knee cop, which is like a knee pad, and a pair of greaves. That would work quite well, but I wanted the really high level of protection given by having the articulated knees and having it all one piece. So it's quite simple. You need to work out this piece here. Now the important part is when you shape this, it needs to be flat, running on the inside of the leg. You want that all to be a straight line going down as much as possible. It's not symmetrical. It's kind of more like that shape. Though that's a bit of an exaggeration. And that makes it a lot better. I did have a go at trying to do it symmetrical. It worked horribly. Had a lot of pinching. It didn't quite fit properly. Another thing you need to take care of with is the angle of your knee joint. It's not perfectly straight on, it's slightly off to the side. That's just biomechanics. But the easiest way to do it is to have it shaped so it's flat on one side. Work out your greaves and all of your lanes shaped to each other up to your knee. It does take quite a bit of sculpting to try and get each piece fitting to each other and transitioning, with one piece here going to your center of your knee, your large piece with the flanges. Now, an important point for this is the rivet for the articulation is about 2 inches in from the end and about 2/5 to half an inch in from the top, with the center pieces being wider. Each one of these lanes is about 2 inches deep, and of course you'll remember this protrusion here to help cover the inside gap of the knee and protect it. If you've done the arms previously, you'll understand this type of articulation. It's exactly the same method with 2 inches of flange on each side. Now, for the protrusion on each one of these lanes, what I did was I got the width of it, which is just continuing on the lowest point of the thigh or the top of the greaves, and with that I give it about 2 inches depth. Then on top of that I measure up 2 inches above it, and I create a triangle between the two top corners and the center 2 inches above the middle. Then I simply level off 1 inch above it and remove the point, so that instead of coming up to point, which could jab into you on the inside of the armour, got this nice broad section. Now of course I could have the protrusion coming up to 1 inch above it to a single point, but having this much broader section, it makes the bit sticking out of it much larger, so it's a bit easier for it to catch on the next piece of articulation so it doesn't overextend. Kind of like this hole here. There's a hole in this one because I tried to carve off a bunch of the protrusion here, making it thinner, and I ended up not having enough, and now it over articulates, and I just haven't felt like going through all the effort to fix up that little gap that appears when I take a knee. So when I'm upright, it's completely fine. So that's the basic shape of all of the laminations. And of course, the middle lane for the center of the knee cop has those protrusions on each end. Still has the same rivet point, except instead of continuing on down for 2 inches, continues on 4 and flares out on the top and bottom, just so there's that section, and I tilted it out just a little to help it not pinch in. Now you don't want these too close to the end, because then it's a lot easier for them to overextend and not lock into each other. If you go in too close to the center, it leaves too much on the sides, which can easily pinch into you, and they scissor together. Another good reason why you want to have it flat on the inner side of the leg and sculpt it really nicely. And definitely do not have it wrap around the knee. That is just asking for it to pinch and bind and chew you up. But other than that, it's a pretty simple build, just having to make sure you've got enough to stretch around whatever kind of boots you want. These gum boots are a bit uncomfortable, but I really needed boots that come up far enough so that they come up deep underneath of the greaves, because if they don't come up high enough, your greaves can dig into your ankle or slide down into your boots, which is just horribly uncomfortable. This is much better as uncomfortable as these gum boots are. And so you should be able to understand how this is made pretty easily, especially if you've watched my video on the fully articulated arm armor, which you can view on Zombie Go Boom TV2. So with all of this information and of course those previous builds, you should be able to figure out how to make these pretty simply. So I really can attest that probably really could benefit with a pair of suspenders. And I'm not really liking this chainmail in here, just because the weave is just way too dense, making it way too heavy. Well, a lot heavier than it needs to be. But other than that, it's not too heavy as a piece of armour. I've gone for a bushwalk in it. It's not too bad. You really want to make sure that you round off these bits on the end, so you're not constantly jabbing yourself. Other than that, it's pretty alright. Bit of a pain to get in and out of, but oh well. But you'll probably have to tinker with the inside back of the knee a bit more just before I'm totally happy with it. But for my zombie-proof leg armour, that's pretty much the bulk of it. If you have any questions or need any further help working out how to build this, please leave a comment. You can also find me on the Zombie Go Boom Survivalist group forum on Facebook if you have any further questions. Of course, if this is well received enough and I get enough requests, I may do further tutorials on how to do much simpler leg armour designs if it is requested enough. So these aren't too overly complicated, but can take a bit of time to shape and just get it refined really nicely. Alright, well, see you.